I'm recording it. There we go. Let me just remind myself to send you that. Oh shoot.
That's completely good. Right now I upload the video to YouTube and try to take little clips out of it. That's
Nice.
That's like the super high level thing. But the thing is I'm in college and also delivering pizza, so I'm a little busy, but I'm getting better at it. I'm slowly catching up to that ideal, but I'm definitely uploading the audio and just, the minimal. I'm always trying to get better. So, but yeah, thanks for doing that. So if you get me the video and the audio, there's one that's
Absolutely.
I think there's one that says like audio only, and that's the one that has both of our audio. Otherwise, it's like separate.
Yeah, I could send you the whole, there's a whole file and they have an audio only option. They have MP4 option. I'll send you everything.
Okay, cool. That sounds really good. Sweet.
Hey.
Sweet. Yeah, so that's pretty much it though. So
All right.
I
am ready.
Okay, cool. Do you have a lot of other interviews today?
Not interviews, but like business meeting stuff.
Gotcha.
It's always fun. A meeting with my accountant. Yeah. That's like my least favorite meeting.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I hope that this is like a inspirational experience for both of us and also for the listener. That's always the hope. And I appreciate you reaching out. Sounds like you have a really great resume and backlog of experiences to look back on and things that you're also doing looking ahead. So I'm excited to talk with you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I think we'll just jump right into it then.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Yield Today with Dallin Candland. I'm joined with Dr. Morissa Schwartz. She has a self-publishing company and just is kind of willing to get out there and put herself out there and do different things, even at a young age, entrepreneurial mindset and driven. So I'm excited to talk with her and learn more about her story. So thanks for coming on, Morissa.
My pleasure.
Yeah, so kind of tell us a little bit about that first entrepreneurial endeavor. I already know a little bit about it, but if you could just kind of enlighten the listeners, maybe the curiosity and how you're able to pursue that curiosity.
Yeah, well, I'm actually going to trace it back even farther. My first online business, I was 8 years old and I loved Mighty Beans. They were, the little magnetic guys and you collect them. They come in all different characters and I was obsessed with them, but I kept getting repeats. So to get the rare ones, the ones I didn't have, I had to sell some of mine. So I created my first PayPal account, my first eBay store, just selling Mighty Beans as a kid. And that was e-commerce technically. And I've learned so much from doing that. So that was my first, online adventure, and I've had that PayPal account ever since. So then when I got a little bit older, I wrote my first book. I self-published it. And then I wrote another book and I got that book traditionally published. And in getting a book traditionally published, I learned just how difficult it is. I sent out 100 queries. I asked 100 companies to publish my book, and I only heard back from 5 of them. And that really was terrible to me, that I could understand them not publishing the book, but to just not respond at all. So I didn't know if they received the letter, if they didn't like the book, if they liked the book. I had no idea about anything. And I thought, if I had a publishing company, I would respond to everybody. And I also, it was another thing. So I was 19 when I was sending those query letters out. And I literally had people say to me, you shouldn't publish a book until you're 40, because until you're 40, you don't know anything about the world. Like multiple people literally told me that. So I said, you know what? I want to create a book publishing company where we don't ghost people. We respond to them. We let them know. So if they send us a query and, maybe their book isn't right for us, we tell them, hey, your book isn't right for us because of X, Y, and Z. If you make those changes, maybe we'll be interested in the future. And if we do like the book, then great, we tell you that. So, and also I want to be more inclusive with my book publishing company. I don't care how old you are. We've published people who are 14. We've published people who are 85. Like, it doesn't matter. We're not judging people based on anything, age related or who they are, where they're from. Nothing like that. We publish, everybody who has a good story and something great to say. So so once I experienced that terrible kind of going through the traditional publishing route. And I did get published by a traditional publisher. So I learned a lot about that process. That was when I started my own book publishing company. And we're an independent publisher, meaning that we are more traditional. It's not, vanity publishing where we're not charging our authors. We are literally splitting royalties with them. So we're formatting the book, doing the book cover, doing promotion for them. And in turn, they're putting these great books out there.
That sounds like a really solid setup, honestly. And that's awesome that you were able to create what you were hoping was in the market. And I think it's also really neat how you're able to learn some lessons from the Mighty Bean and all those other things that you did. I mean, you did some freelancing in high school and were able to do some editing. So what have been some of those big lessons from entrepreneurship that like kind of resonate really well with you that you keep coming back to?
I mean, there are a lot. Like, I grew up in my parents' mom and pop carpet shop. So they're both entrepreneurs. And when I first started out in business, my father warned me, he said, every day there is going to be a problem. And I thought, yeah, right, that sounds terrible. But my gosh, was he right? There's always something. When you can do everything in the world to make sure everything is perfect. But as a business owner, you're overseeing so many things. So there's always, you're lucky if there's only one problem in a day. There are probably more like 10 problems every day. But as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, and as somebody who is prepared, it makes the issues not such a big deal. You just realize that that's part of the job, and you're prepared, and you're ready to take them on. So that's the first thing. Realize there's always going to be issues, but be prepared for them and solve them calmly, and realize it's not the end of the world. Sometimes problems are just opportunities in disguise. And then I think that the other that so many people don't do is treating others the way that you would want to be treated. And that includes books, that includes people. And my best example of this is Lauren. She started working at GenZ about a year after I started. And what stood out to me immediately with her is, other people that I had hired, they just edit the book and that's it. They don't have that passion in there, but she looks at it as if it's her own book. And she'll make suggestions that other people wouldn't think about because they wouldn't care. So for example, so now here we are 5 years later, she's still working with me. We're working with a client and she notices that he's not on Kirkus reviews. And she says, hey, I think that you should be on Kirkus reviews. Now we get nothing from that. We have no partnerships with Kirkus, nothing. But she did that just because, she goes that extra step. She thinks about, hey, if I had this book, I want to be on Kirkus. And she makes like 50 other things, but just an example of has no bearing on us, but she's giving that advice and she's doing the extra things because she really cares. So I think that anybody who's an entrepreneur, go above and beyond, treat your clients as you would yourself or a family member. It could be very easy to see people as a number. I went to a biomedical science academy. So before I got into business and writing and all that, I was planning on becoming a medical doctor. And one of the main things that made me say, man, I don't want to do that is when they told us you can't look at your patients as people because you can't get attached. You have to look at them as just, patients that you have to fix. And that got to me. I was like, I can't have that mindset. I like people. I don't want to view them as just a number. So I think that entrepreneurs should usually have that, care about the people, and in turn they'll care about you and your business will be that much more successful.
Yeah, I think that's really good, recognizing that entrepreneurship teaches you a lot of resiliency and also that you need to treat people as people. I mean, we all have different dreams, we all have different goals. And so when we're able to help one another with reaching those goals, that's really awesome. But you can also be like that roadblock without realizing it and be like, hey, I don't think this is going to work, and that's fine. But without sharing any reason why, I mean, it's kind of like those companies that kind of ghosted you. You're kind of a roadblock. You're not really blessing them. And you don't have to do a ton to be a blessing for them, but just understanding and listening, I think, just goes such a long way.
Absolutely.
That's sweet. So I guess like for anybody that's interested, there's probably some youth that are listening. What are some like skills that you think are pretty good and hot in the marketplace right now on Upwork or on Fiverr that would be relatively easy to get into? A lot of people are still in this, we're still in the pandemic technically, and there's people that are still stuck at home. So what are your thoughts on that?
TikTok and YouTube ads are a blue ocean and not many people are doing them. I'm not doing them. but I know that they're a blue ocean. What I am doing is organic TikTok, and that is blowing up. So I started out on YouTube about a decade ago, and I got maybe a collective 20,000 views over the past 10 years on YouTube. Now I put that same kind of content on TikTok. I'm getting 2 to 3 million views every month. And I haven't changed anything. It's just TikTok is a blue ocean. They're actually showing your content. So I think if somebody listening to this was looking for a skill to monetize, organic TikTok is definitely one. I think what could be even more lucrative for you though is offering TikTok and YouTube ads, learning how to do them, because there are not a lot of people who know how to do them. Heck, I've tried to hire people to do them. I can't find anybody that can do them properly. So if you get good at doing YouTube and TikTok ads, offer it on Upwork, and also reach out to me, because I've been looking for somebody who can actually do that. And I think it will get saturated once people realize how, just like Facebook and Instagram ads, like there are so many people who do PPC on Google and Facebook and Instagram ads. I think that YouTube and TikTok ads will become like that, where it will be saturated, but right now it is a blue ocean.
That's cool. Yeah. I've done a pretty good fair amount of research with Fiverr, and there's this one lady that was sending like personalized calendars, and she was making like 30 or 40. And I imagine like she had a template that she'd like, change up a little bit. And like, that's a pretty solid side hustle. And so like, if you have that skill, like all you need to do is find a way to make it solve a problem, and you can make a little bit of money on the side.
It's totally true. I started out on Fiverr. My mother read an article about it in one of her women's magazines. So when I was in high school, she said, sign for Fiverr and offer your singing services. But little did I know, nobody wanted to pay a 16-year-old to sing into her computer in her parents' basement with no mic or anything. So that didn't work out. But then I discovered, hey, but people will pay as a 16-year-old or 17-year-old at that point. They will pay her to edit their children's books. So that was how I started, just find a little niche. So I found people looking for children's book editing on Fiverr. And then I built that to, okay, let me edit people's blogs. So 100% one opportunity leads to another with these freelance platforms.
That's cool. Yeah, I think it's really easy to get started in some kind of journey like that. And then I guess, using the Lord of the Rings as an example, you like leave out on your adventure and then you go back to where it was comfortable without continuing forward. What are some thoughts I guess you have on just being able to keep going when things are difficult, or when someone tells you this stinks, like this is not working? How do you move past that?
Well, I mean, Frodo persisted. Frodo. Yeah, it's been a little while. Yeah, he persisted, right? That's the main guy. I've got that right.
So I need to watch more Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. No, he persisted, but yeah, just mindset. It's all about mindset. One person can look at the same business as another person, and one person's seeing the greatest thing in the world, and the other person's just like, oh my gosh, it will never work. Just belief, positivity, so much of it is mindset. I've seen so many brilliant people with businesses, or even brilliant people who have freelanced for me, who have flourished and done amazing things. And I've seen people with comparable skill sets just lose faith in themselves and get a 9-to-5 job because their family tells them, oh, you need a real job. And they're making less with the real job, but they feel like, oh, they have that security. So I think just listening to yourself, if you feel in your heart that this is what you want to do, go for it, be positive, and don't let others negatively influence you away from it.
Yeah, it's cool. One book that's influenced me a ton in my life is The Magic of Thinking Big by David J. Schwartz. And something he talks about is there's these two guys, and one of them, is doing really well in college. And then he kind of he's basically using all of his brain power to learn why things wouldn't work. And so he ended up not having that optimist mindset whenever he graduated, and kind of stayed in this like kind of dead end job more or less. And then his counterpart, wasn't as skilled, but was kind of taught the opposite, and kind of realized like, I don't want to go down that route, even though maybe that's the path of least resistance. I'm going to at least believe that things are going to work out. And that's like one of the main takeaways I had from the book, is if you just believe that things are going to work out, then you're going to find a way to make it work out.
Yeah, it's totally true. There's manifestation is a big buzzword lately, and everybody on TikTok and social media is always like, oh, manifest your future. And a lot of it is hokey, but there is truth to thinking positively. And seeking out opportunities. When you think positively, you are more likely to seek out opportunities that are going to lead to success.
Yeah, I think visualization is super huge. I'm super inspired by like Michael Phelps and how he would imagine like every single part of his routine going perfectly. So then when he actually got to it, all he had to do was create it again, because all things are created twice. And yeah, I think that's super huge and something that is being underutilized. But many athletes are able to, and entrepreneurs obviously as well, they're able to imagine that success and imagine the like what could go wrong with this, and then be able to be ready for it because it doesn't surprise them.
Yeah.
So yeah, so like I really like what we've talked about so far. Going back to your entrepreneur mindset and growing on that, what kind of helped that grow the most as you were growing up?
Definitely, my parents' business. So when I was a week old, that was the first time I ever visited it. I mean, so I basically grew up there every day after school. I would go there, do my homework. My parents made me my own little office with, all my toys and homework stuff. So I think being in their business, they've always been super involved in the community. My father is the president of the Merchants Association. So I think seeing how they work with other small businesses and in the community, and getting to see other small businesses and other entrepreneurs at these different business events definitely inspired me a lot. But here's the part that I still don't understand about myself and human nature. I didn't think I would be able to be an entrepreneur for the longest time. So I went, like I said, to a biomedical science academy. I was going to become a medical doctor. Then in college, I was going to become a medical malpractice attorney. Like I went through this whole thing thinking I was going to have to get a 9-to-5 job. I started writing for Entertainment Weekly. I thought, okay, I'm going to work in New York and have a 9-to-5 being a journalist at Entertainment Weekly. So I did a whole circle. And then I realized, wait a minute, I can do what my parents do. I can have my own business. That seems like impossible. That's a dream. And it wasn't until I got that positive thinking and wrote out a business plan and wrote out where I wanted to be that I realized, you know what, I'm going to go for it. So a lot of people though made me think I had to get 9-to-5, like my teachers, my counselors, everybody. You would talk to your college counselor or your high school guidance counselor, and they would say, so where are you going to intern? Where are you going to get a job? And I would say, oh, I'm freelancing. They'd be like, great, you need a real internship, you need a real job. And it's like, but why, if I want to be an entrepreneur? And they didn't get it. So I think pushing back against that as well, for me at least, did me a service. Just doing my own thing.
That's cool. Yeah, I think what you said about environment and being exposed to that is absolutely key. For me, I've tried to watch a ton of Shark Tank as I've grown up, and that's helped me a ton with being able to innovate when things go wrong and try again. Have you watched any Shark Tank?
I've watched so many Shark Tanks. What the coolest thing is when you watch Shark Tank, and then I've had some people from Shark Tank come to my company, my marketing company, and ask us to help them with their social media and stuff. That's the coolest thing. So, yeah, I've watched. I'm a fan of Shark Tank. I think I've been watching it since season 1. I've missed a few seasons, but I've seen a lot of them. It's a good show.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I got into Shark Tank because in one of my marketing classes in high school, the teacher was like, when you get done with your work for the day, you can watch Shark Tank. And I was like, what is this? And it is actually really sweet. So I've been watching since like season 1. I think it was like 2009 or 10. Well, I think I got into it when it was on season 2 or 3. But yeah, I watched it 2 nights ago. So it's like, it's super cool, like how they're able to be so optimistic when a lot of people, it seems like it's the end of the rope and it's finally too much. But I really love that about entrepreneurship, is how there's always like a light at the end of the tunnel. There's always like something else you can try. You never tried everything.
Absolutely.
Sweet. So, I know there's some people, including myself, that have been wanting to write a book and aren't quite sure where to start or how to keep it going. Like I have a draft that's like it's pretty much done, but it's just like getting it out there and pushing out the last little bit of it. What are some of your thoughts? And it could be mindset, it could be more technique. But what are your
Yeah,
thoughts?
my biggest thing that has changed my life is audio recording. So I used to have an hour and a half drive to and from school. And that's actually how I wrote my dissertation, just in the car where you're at your, most, to me at least, I get creative in the car because there's nothing else to do. You're just sitting, looking at trees while you're driving. So I would just dictate into my phone, have my phone on the little dashboard thing and just dictate my dissertation. And I also did that with one of my books too, just kind of say your ideas, you're outlining it. And then when you go home, you can type it up and you're eliminating an editing round because you would have had to edit that anyway. So you're typing up and you're self-editing. And yeah, that has been a game changer for me. It eliminates so much writing time. And it helps me be just more creative and not hold back as much because it's just like I'm having a conversation with myself. So that's one. And then another piece of advice is one that I got from a professor the first day of my grad school. And somebody asked him about writer's block. How do we get over writer's block? And he said, get over your ego. He said, the ego is the reason that we get writer's block because the ego says, oh, this must be perfect. He says, realize that there is no perfect and just write and don't worry about being perfect. You can always edit later, but just write, just start moving the pen and you'll get over your writer's block. And that changed my life hearing that. Because you do go into writing thinking, oh, this needs to be great. This needs to be Pulitzer worthy, but no, just write and don't judge it. Write with no judgment.
That's really cool. Yeah, I want to go back really fast to the audio recordings. That's really cool. I've been doing that in college when I have like a rough day or something, or just want to talk, I'll listen to it. And then sometimes when I go on my runs, I'll listen to them. And it's really neat to be like, hear how much I was struggling with things. And I can look back on that. It's like, yeah, that's in the past. That's old news, but it's super neat to do that. And that's something I definitely need to try is like doing a good amount of running or writing while driving through that. Cause I feel like I express myself pretty well, like when I speak. So that's cool. And I mean, you can speak up to, generally people speak up to 130 to 150 words per minute. And I don't know about you with typing. My fastest typing is probably like 70 or 80. And that's if I'm like flying, like it's like 10 minutes before an assignment's due.
Yeah, exactly. So it is, it's much quicker and it eliminates the editing. Yeah. And the practice that you're talking about also, I do that too. I do with like journaling. So I'll write down, I actually start, I have not kept up with this, but I would write 3 good things that happen each day and 3 bad things. And then like a week later, I'd look at the bad things. And I'm like, I was upset about that. Like, what? That nothing happened with that. No big deal. So it is so true. I think George Carlin, I'm going to attribute this quote to him, but I don't know for sure if it was him. Somebody said, rule number 1 is don't sweat the small stuff. And rule number 2 is it's all small stuff. And you definitely learn that in business.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a thought that I've been taught too, is just like a lot of that stuff like is really not worth worrying about, and it can just really make you upset. I have a little theory, or I really love analogies, and I came up with this analogy of helping to make it like understand why some of that stuff seems so big in the moment. And it's that the present is like a magnifying glass. So when we're going through something, everything is magnified to like its biggest proportions ever. But then once the past, well, like after the present happens, you can look back on it. It's kind of like binoculars. You have to look really far back, and you generally don't feel it as much. Do you have any thoughts on that?
That is real. I've never heard it put like that, but that is so true. I think that's brilliant. Yeah. That's a really good point because this. So I mean, I'll think back to something that happened 5 years ago, and it's like, oh my gosh, that was baby stuff. I'll think back to something that happened last week. It's like, oh, that was no big deal. I've never looked back on something and thought, man, I should have made a bigger deal about that. So you are 100% correct. But when it's happening, it's like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world, and it never is. So yeah, you're definitely correct.
Yeah, and then the other part of that, so like the past is like binoculars, the present is like a magnifying glass. I had the future as like a kaleidoscope, like you can turn it and you still have no idea what's going on. But
Yes.
that's more of a humorous analogy. But
Yeah,
what
no,
have
I like
been
it.
thank you, I appreciate that. who have been like some of the biggest mentors or helps for you to keep going with your dream? I've talked with some people that got coached that helped them out a lot with getting started and staying committed. What have been some things that have helped you with that?
Well, definitely my parents, but also the Women's Center for Entrepreneurship, which is part of the Small Business Association. When I first started my company, I was a college kid. I didn't know much about making a business plan or anything else. So my father suggested go to the Small Business Association and see what they can do. And they hooked me up with the Women's Center for Entrepreneurship, who essentially what they do is they have classes and they provide counselors for new small businesses. So I met with this counselor. She showed me how to do the business plan properly. We planned out my marketing and all that. And that was a great first step in my business. And then, I've had plenty of business coaches and team members, as well, a lot of team members as well, who have helped to make my businesses grow and turn them into what they are today. So it's been a lot of people. Like I actually had a team meeting yesterday. I have 28 people who work regularly on my team. And I said to them yesterday, my one company, the marketing company, is called Dr. Rissi's. I said, I know it's called Dr. Rissi's, but it is so much more than just Dr. Rissi. I mean, we have 28 people here with incredible talents. So it probably should be called Dr. Rissi and Co., but we haven't gotten there yet. But yeah, there have been a lot of people, but I definitely, I always like to give a shout out to the SBA and the WCC for setting me up with my first counselor. And now I'm a counselor with them. So it really came full circle where it was just like 8 years ago that I was starting my company and, working with one of their counselors. And now here I am doing that for new businesses and teaching their courses.
That's awesome. Yeah. And then kind of going back to that same thing, like you expose yourself to environments and it opens doors for other opportunities. And if you're willing to kind of stick with it for that initial maybe first year or so where it's really difficult, it can really get you in some great places. And you also learn a ton when you're, going through that for the first time.
Very true.
Sweet. Well, what would be some of your advice, Morissa, for anybody that maybe has a business idea or wants to start doing some freelancing, but doesn't really see it working with their time? They're always able to make more excuses. What would you say to somebody in those shoes?
Yeah, find a passion for it. If you don't enjoy it, you're probably going to find excuses, but find something that interests you in it. So, for example, my first thing when I started freelancing in the singing, I enjoyed it a lot. People didn't have the interest. But then if I started offering, say, I did have other services that I tried. It wasn't just, oh, I hit right on the editing right away. I tried a bunch of different services. So I think my second service was something like, oh, I'll edit your Facebook profile picture. And I hated it. I'm a not as much of a visual person. I'm more of an auditory person. So that wasn't for me. I didn't have the passion for it. So I was like, let's try something else. And then when I found the editing, then I was trying to find any excuse that I could to edit in class, or, when I had free time in class, I would work on editing or I'd work on my books. I would go to the library. I would take time between classes. So if I had, say, a half hour between two classes, I would go to the library and work for a half hour, maybe half of that time on my homework and half of that time on freelancing. And you just find those little pockets of time for it. And I actually, because I was a student, I looked at it almost like homework. So I'm like, okay, let me do my English homework and let me edit this person's children's book, while I have this hour, so that kind of thing as well. Just kind of play it into the schedule that you already have, just add it in there. I think since a lot of the folks who listen to this are students, I think that just looking at like homework to start with is a really good step.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And being able to, hold yourself accountable for what you do and don't accomplish, I think is awesome. And for me, like, it's really amazing how you can make a ton of progress with a little period of time. You really don't need that much time. And so something I try to do with like the little business stuff I do or podcasting is to get like the initial thing done way before the things actually do. So then I never ever have to start from like the beginning where I have to get out of the house. Going back to the Frodo example, I'm never in the house. I'm already out there. Maybe I'm chilling under a tree, but I'm like kind of ready to go at a moment's notice. So I think, yeah, putting it in your schedule and being ready and making it a part of your day. I think, it just kind of depends on the person, but I think that's awesome that that's worked for you. And I think that would definitely work for a lot of other people. They have that skill and they have the time. What is like, 20 more minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And what you're talking about, I call precrastination. So the opposite of procrastination, we get stuff done early. I love that. And I think more people are getting into that trend, hopefully a little bit. And like I use an app called Todoist, where I'll schedule everything in and I'll say to myself, okay, so if this is due on the 30th, let me work on it or finish it on the 27th. And then I have 3 days. If there's anything to fix on it, great, I can fix that. But yeah, procrastination is the way of the future, hopefully.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, like with a lot of my classes, I'm really good at procrastinating, but there's also like the fact that with a lot of my assignments, you can turn it as many times as you want. So you can turn in this paper like the day after if you wanted to. And then at least you won't get a zero if you completely forget about it. But yeah, having that thing to start with, it's okay. Having
Yeah,
that
my
thing
my
to
little this is Mo. He's decided to start growling all of a sudden.
Oh, my stomach is growling too. So we have both animals growling right now.
That's funny.
I'm like, I hope that's not in the recording, my growling, but
No, it's fun.
yeah, that's cool. Well, do you have like a favorite fiction book or story or something that has helped you change how you see yourself?
There are this is the problem. I there are so many books. I have a library of like 1,000 favorite books. Like I don't say books I don't like. So it's very tough to choose. I will say right now. So what's on the top of my mind now is I'm currently reading a book called Ishmael in conjunction with a book called Sapiens, and they are blowing my mind. They are dealing with kind of human, I guess I'll say evolution, but there's so much more to it than that. It will definitely change how you think about humans and the relation to Earth and other animals. So it's really good. And then one of my favorite of all time nonfictions. I know you said fiction, but I'm more of a nonfiction person. Tools for Titans. I think everything we talked about. Anybody who likes a show like this would like Tools for Titans because it's just some of the greatest advice from some of the greatest minds in business and arts. So that's another really good one. And for fiction, actually, Sapiens is technically fiction. So, not Sapiens. Ishmael is technically fiction. So I'll say Ishmael. Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That is
I'm reading this right
awesome.
now from the library, and it's like over 500 pages, I think. There's a
Yes, it
lot
is.
of like mind-blowing stuff in there, like a lot of experts, a lot of different things. So yeah, I'm trying to like comb through and find some good stuff in there. But I've heard really good things about Sapiens too. I mostly am reading a lot of self-development stuff, but I liked Percy Jackson a lot because he kind of like discovers his power and then his whole life's like different. There's like this other world that he doesn't know about. So that
Yeah.
that that excites me because like entrepreneurship was kind of like that for me. There's like this underground thing happening that like nobody really talks about until it's talked about. But yeah, that's
That's
cool.
awesome. That is so funny they had that. So once you read that, then Tim Ferriss has a follow-up book, not as good, but still very good. And it's the same format, like the interview kind of format. He also has 4 Hour Work Week and the 4 Hour Body. They're worth reading, but I like Tools for Titans the best.
That's cool. Yeah, that's interesting. I looked into 4 Hour Work Week a little bit, but it didn't like hit me as much. I don't know. I was just kind of like, I feel like I could get the summary and it wouldn't have a lot of the fluff and I'd be fine.
Yeah, the thing with the 4 Hour Work Week is the title. The title is really hokey. When I told that to my father was like, "This is a book for a lazy person." I'm like, "No, Dad. There's so much more to it. It's more about your time management." I learned a lot from it. Like, it was written in 2005, but some of the tools are still really good. Like rescue time is one of the tools that they talk about in the book. So what that does is it tracks your time online and what you're doing online. And I've used it ever since I've read that book. And it is a game changer because I'll realize, oh, why did I spend 2 hours on emails? My gosh, what was I doing on there? Let me cut down my email time a little bit. Like, it really has impacted my time management and given me a lot more free time. So it's,
That's
yeah,
really cool.
tools for, I mean, 4 hour work week, it is good. I think it's worth a read, but yeah, Tools for Titans is the best.
That's neat. Yeah. And we'll have all links to all those tools and stuff in the show notes because I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff too. So
Nice.
yeah, I think
Awesome.
it's really amazing. I guess last thought I wanted to share, and then we can have you share your services and how we can reach you. But there's just really amazing to me how we can reach this point of like not feeling anymore. Like we know like what we're doing, and then we're like, okay, I'm done. And then it's easy to sit there and keep doing the thing or just kind of move to something less productive, and we just kind of sit there and we don't move. Do you have any like quick thoughts on that?
So do you mean like motivate, like how to motivate yourself to go? Am I reading you right? Yeah.
Yeah, just like when you set yourself up to succeed, like say like I'll watch the Shark Tank episode,
Yeah.
and then there's that moment where it's starting the next episode and you're like, oh, I could just watch one more episode. But you know you need to like go and do the other thing.
For me, and this is a blessing and a curse. I have a nagging voice that does not allow me to. But I also, okay. So if you're really in something, because no, this has happened too, where you get into a state of flow. So if I'm editing TikTok videos, I am obsessed with TikTok videos. So that will happen to me with TikTok. So if I'm in that flow, what I literally do is set an alarm on my phone for whatever time I need to do something else. And that alarm is so obnoxious that it distracts me from whatever I was really into. And I'm like, all right, I gotta go do the other thing. So I think alarms are a good tool for training yourself to get that nagging voice.
That's cool. Yeah, when you have
Yeah.
something else helping you with that, because technology is only getting more enticing, more distracting, and everything. So that's neat. Well, sweet. How can everybody get in touch with you if they wanted to work with your company or learn more about you and your services?
Yeah, so if you Google my name, Morissa Schwartz, everything comes up. But I have genzpublishing.org is the book publishing company. drrissi.com is my marketing company. And on social media, everywhere is Morissa Schwartz or Dr. Rissi. Follow me on TikTok at Morissa Schwartz. I do a lot of goofy stuff, and it's fun.
That's awesome. I'm really glad you're having a fun time with your journey and your business and helping a lot of people. I really enjoyed this conversation. I think we'll definitely have you back on. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thanks. Yeah, so I think that went pretty well. So I know we
Yeah.
only have a couple minutes, but
Awesome. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I like the different questions. So I go on, podcasts regularly, and it's always the same, like 5 questions. You didn't ask any of the cliche questions. That's awesome.
oh thanks. Yeah, I try to like make it a little more different and interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
great.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. I think you did a really good job of like showing like passion, and I mean you definitely enjoy what you're doing and you could see that and you could hear that and feel that. So I think you did a really great job, and I'm glad you're a podcast guest. You've
Thank you
made
so much.
my podcast a little bit better.
Oh,
I'm
well,
excited
thank
to
you.
edit it and stuff. So
Yeah, I will send it to you. I have my on my to-do list. It's an app called Todoist. Yeah, I will send it over to you ASAP.
that's cool. Yeah, I got into Todoist a little bit, but I think they made a lot of their stuff paid, and I don't really have the monies.
Mine is free.
Yours
Oh
is
wait,
free?
no, you're right. I pay. Yeah, I do pay for it. You're right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's frustrating. Well, reminders on Apple isn't bad. It's kind of the same thing. I think
Yeah.
it's for reminders. Yeah, just any old to-do list. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Well, enjoy the rest of your day. Good luck with all
Thank
your
you.
meetings and everything. And
Thank
it
you.
was a pleasure. So have a good one.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks a lot.
Yep.
Bye
Bye.
bye.